Om lokaha samastaha suki no bhavantu. May all beings be happy and peaceful. Happy Wednesday. What the hell is going on? Well, it's been an interesting last couple of hours. I had to step away from the charts for about an hour, and we're back at 24K. That's very interesting. Um, very suspicious, but very interesting. So we're gonna take a look here. This changes everything. Definitely changes a lot of things, and we can basically throw the plan setups out the window. For those of you that are in the C3 group, of course, markets are always changing. We have to be prepared for all potential scenarios here. And it's best to be neutral. As I mentioned, 2023 is going to be rocky. And if this is any indication of how the rest of the year is going to play out, then we could see some pretty dramatic moves in both directions. So I'm curious to hear your thoughts because personally, I have no clue why Bitcoin is pumping with the markets, with the rest of the markets the way they are. And we'll look at those charts. In particular, the Dixie. It's kind of interesting because usually there's a very strong correlation with the dollar and Bitcoin, and the dollar's been recovering quite dramatically, and yet Bitcoin has pretty much ignored it over the last 24 hours. So I'm curious to hear if you have any ideas why Bitcoin is pumping. And in the meantime, let's actually change this setting here so I can see. Hi, Adam. Hi, Dejan and Node. So yeah, interesting times to say the least. I had to cover some positions, some stocks today. I had to cover some shorts. I'm glad I did. Took some losses, but it's okay. Overall, up pretty good this month. So it is what it is. And before we dive into the charts, I do want to mention my courses. People ask me, why should I take your course when I can find all the information for free on the internet? It is true. You can find a lot of great material on both my channel and other channels. And the problem with doing it that way is that a lot of the times this content lacks focus, and you're searching here and there, getting bits and pieces, but it's not cohesive. And so when you take a course such as mine, you pay a couple $100. And for me personally, as I've mentioned, I've spent thousands of dollars in courses, and I will continue to, because the way I look at it, if I spend $200 on a course and in a single trade, I can make that. And if it's a great course or series of courses, then I can make thousands, hundreds of thousands, potentially millions of dollars over the years. And this is sort of the abundance mindset. And so that's my sales pitch for the day. It is a great course. I'm kind of surprised that more people haven't taken it yet. Maybe I need to price it like 10 times higher because it's literally 5 courses in one. There's the trade size spreadsheet, which is really great as well. Has also saved me a great deal of money and made me a lot of money too. And then the small cap superstars. A lot of the tokens that are pumping today, like insanely pumping, were in the small cap superstars. So they were in that. That was a month ago that I released that, and some of these are up 300-400%, literally. So, and then I'm working on another course that's going to be sort of the distillation. So let's get into the charts and what the hell is going on. I want to start with the Dixie because to me this is very telling. When you see this in particular, I was highlighting this area here. Notice what just happened. We're seeing a break in this diagonal. This is pretty significant here, but not just the diagonal. We also have some confluence with this weekly level at around 103. So we had the retest down here, not once, but twice, wicked off, pretty quick rejection there. And it's been moving to the upside, and it's up 0.5% again today. And yet the markets haven't really priced that in yet, or it seems like this is a very clearly an obvious bottom here, and the dollar has entered back into an uptrend, and this is being ignored. So that's a curiosity to me. I'm not sure how much longer it can continue for. Of course, markets don't always correlate or inversely correlate, but it's just something that I want to put out there. And then also we have the S&P 500, which I showed has clearly, it's clearly up against some pretty strong resistance right now. It could break through. It's looking like it wants to retest it yet again. But if you notice here, we have resistance. Of course, this was a deviation here. Didn't make it up here. The resistance previously was up here. But now we're back up at this weekly level, and we've tested it about 3 times now. But if you look at this on the lower time frames, again, these are a series of lower highs. Of course, that's, you know, it's still sort of range bound in this range, but this is something that I'm looking at here. Maybe I was a little bit too early with some of my stock shorts. I covered some of those, some of them in profit, some of them not, but it's been kind of a wash so far because we're range bound. And so I think that what needs to happen is that this finally needs to either break down from this level here, which again, this was previous resistance on multiple occasions here, needs to break down from this 409. And this will be sort of very telling for, I think, at least the stock market. Can't speak for crypto right now. Or it needs to break above and hold here. And then it's game on for pretty much everything. And then, of course, the next level of resistance is up at 431 for the SPY. But so now Bitcoin, this was really interesting to me this morning. I noticed this, and it happened very quickly. I mean, we're talking, yeah, a matter of, it seems like it was even quicker than it was, but look at these 4-hour candles here. That's 1, 2, 3, 4. Notice this though. Okay, we've gone over this many times. This is very common theme in crypto, especially, is we have the range, and then we had the breakdown from the range. Nice little fake out deviation play. I should have spotted this sooner. As soon as it got back inside, I probably should have covered on all of my shorts, because as I mentioned, especially if there's some momentum headed into this, which there was, if we drop down to the lower time frames, usually what happens is that it comes back at least to retest, at minimum to retest the highs here. And oftentimes, more often than not, actually pushes higher. And so that's what's happening. That's what we're seeing right now, both with Bitcoin and Ethereum, as a matter of fact. Now, Ethereum, it wasn't so clear, but if you could just consider this as one big range here. And I mean, you could shade this however you want here, and we could consider this the deviation here, the sort of failed breakdown. And yesterday, or the CPI, I don't know if that was yesterday or Monday, I can't remember anymore, but this was also very telling for Ethereum. And the fact that it didn't break down, I was anticipating it to break down, and that's where I went wrong. As a trader, it doesn't help most of the time to try to anticipate, because you have no idea what the market's going to do. It can continue to move up, onward and upward without you. It's better to respond, and instead of to react to what you think is the market is going to do. And that's where I get caught up a lot of the times, and I need to pay close attention to that. But see, this break here, we had a strong break above again here, and then sort of held. And then once this happened here, this strong candle here, it was very likely, very high probability that it was going to come all the way back up again to the 1675. And it did that. Of course, it happened really quickly. Usually it doesn't happen so quickly. And that's where the suspicion comes in, because there's no real fundamental reason, at least in my humble opinion, for this to be happening right now. And you could say, well, it's just Bitcoin adoption or whatever, but I don't really buy that. And I also don't buy that retail is just FOMOing in right now. Because if retail was really interested in this, then I'd be getting a lot more viewers. I can tell you that for sure, and a lot more attention. And that's usually how it goes for influencers. The engagement just spikes dramatically when retail is interested. So that's where the suspicion is. And we are at a critical level right now. It could reject off of this. I'm not taking any trades here because, first of all, I just took I gave back a good chunk of my gains from this month in the last couple of days. I'm glad I got out when I did, but we're back above the monthly open. This is a curiosity, because could the bull market be back on? I don't know, maybe. It could also be that this level here, up here, this 25K that we were targeting, that we were looking at between 24 to 25K, I said Bitcoin would revisit it. It did revisit it once, but it could push higher, take out these highs here around 25,200, 25,150, and then come back down again. Okay. That would really screw a lot of people over, in my humble opinion. That would be sort of max pain scenario for me, because a lot of people at this point are thinking, well, look at what just happened. We had this strong uptrend and the pullback. This is normal for a bull market, right? This is normal for a bull market, but the conditions, the macro conditions are not pointing towards another bull market right now. And with the S&P at resistance and the Dixie on the rebound, this doesn't really, it's just out of place. There's just something really out of place about it. And then moreover, we have the altcoins like Optimism. Optimism, I think it was up 18% at one point today, literally just blasting off again. And it's just, there's no real fundamental reason for this, for any of this. And so I'm skeptical, but I'm not bearish. I would say that what needs to happen is for the price to settle, and ideally for Ethereum, it comes back above this level here. This is a quarterly level here, the 1677. It needs to come back above here and then start to find some support and just settle down a bit, you know, or maybe it pulls back here and then it gets back above here and then it starts to find support. And then I would say, okay, we're targeting what we were targeting a couple of weeks ago, these levels up a little bit higher, which ultimately I'd be targeting somewhere up around 1750, 1745, and then ultimately 1785. And then from there, we're moving higher up to 1880-ish for Ethereum. But that, I say, hold your horses here, because we just saw a massive move up for Ethereum. And of course, it could just continue up forever, but that's not as likely here. It's more likely that we see some settling like we saw here. And so it might sort of spike around in this area. And I would say, well, in that case, we're sort of in a neutral situation, because it can break out to the upside or it can break down, and it's probably headed back down at least to the mid. And then we have to reevaluate it from there. Maybe it bounces and comes back up, or maybe it just breaks all the way back down again and puts in new local lows here, and it actually comes down and breaks down to the January mid, which is around 1430, 1431. But as it stands right now, there is not enough data. When you have a move like this, it can be frustrating, because yes, I missed the move. I had some longs in place. I did anticipate a bounce. It did actually happen, but I got out too soon, as is often the case with longs for me these days. And so it just kept going, and here we are, and we have an overextended move. This overextended move can be as extended as it wants to be, but the fact remains, for me, for my strategies, this doesn't work for me to try to trade this right here, because I don't have any clarity. I'm a price action trader, and when I see a big strong candle up, I think there's most likely going to be a correction. Maybe I take a quick scalp. But that's just guessing for me, because as we saw, I think there's probably been a lot of traders that got completely wrecked today trying to anticipate the pullback that just never happened for Bitcoin. It literally just ripped right through. We had about 3 weeks where we were sitting in this range. Remember? I mean, this was like almost 3 weeks here, 19 days. And then all of a sudden in 12 hours, actually 10 hours. In 10 hours, it ripped through this entire range. That's where the suspicion comes in. Yeah, so we'll just have to sit with this and see what happens. But both with Bitcoin and Ethereum, in the case of Bitcoin targeting up, I'd be curious to see what happens once it gets back up. I think at this point, it seems inevitable that at some point, they just want 25K Bitcoin. And I think that that's going to happen. But maybe we get a pullback first. So this is the level that we need to add this back in here. So that's around 25K. And this is the extension of this here. again, we're between 24, 25K. We might be range bound here for a while. That's sort of best case scenario for the bulls. And then we'd have to see if it can break through 25K and really hold above, then that changes everything. And this is no longer, we're basically out of this accumulation, if this is accumulation. So just want to give that some weight there, just in case that does happen. But I'm not wanting to take a long here yet until I have more clarity with this. Now let's look at some of the alts, because this video was titled "Which alts are going to fall the hardest," basically. And keep in mind that all of my titles are clickbait, or most of them are, and I try not to fall into that whole thing, but that's basically how people pay attention to your videos. And it doesn't mean that I'm not giving you meaningful information. It's just that, and sometimes things change. So I created the title for that video last night before all of this. But actually, we have a lot to work with here. Phantom, like a lot of these almost look like, if you look at Phantom, just look at it on, well, let's look at it on different time frames here, because we'll zoom out and see everyone's going crazy over Phantom right now. And take a look at this. Okay. Oh, all we have is a little ice cream sandwich here. Over the last 3 weeks, we have, we have this one big white candle, red candle, white candle, and it's just basically we're back where we started, but we're not quite there yet. But then if we zoom in and we look on the daily, this almost looks like it looks like the complacency dead cat bounce here, right after a bull run. So you could just, again, price is fractal, so you could consider this an entire cycle that just played out with Phantom. We had the bull run, and then we had sort of the beginning of the bear, and then the dead cat bounce. Okay, this could be a dead cat bounce for Phantom and many other altcoins. If you look at Aptos, similar scenario playing out right now. Could be. So I would be suspicious of that. Could also rip through and put in new highs. It's just that we just had such a big move, and we're not in a bull market. Okay, this was a 500% move. And we know that these are VCs that basically were invested in the seed rounds of these, and they were pumping their own bags before the unlock so that they could sell off. And so this is all manipulated, and same for Optimism. So Optimism, they all look the same, right? It looks like, okay, massive run up, breaking down, dead cat bounce, getting the bulls back involved, getting them to long here. And this could be close to the top for Optimism for the next several months. That's just sort of something that you need to consider. Now, if Optimism, like, so personally for me, I'm not willing to take any longs here with this where it sits right now. But if I see Optimism, and it's obviously hitting resistance here. Why? Because this is a level, I mean, this was a previous level sort of range here, right? We can identify this as a range for Optimism, and it just spiked into that range, and now it's getting a rejection initially. But it may be the case that it is able to reclaim this range, and I would say if it holds here for a time, then this could be a potential long with targets in the mid, which is around just under $3, and then eventually up around 317. And then if it breaks through there, then this could either be a double top, okay, which I would be alert and aware that this could happen, or it could continue north, and that would be the long trigger there. But these moves take time. And so I'm extra cautious, and I'm stepping back from alts right now. I made some good money with the alts. I made some good money shorting Optimism. I gave some of that back earlier today. That's okay. It's just all about, it's just about applying reason, being patient, understanding that sometimes markets are irrational. They can be irrational for longer than you can be solvent. And you just have to respond according to what shows itself. Now with Solana, so I'm covering the alts today that I think are going to actually fall the hardest when they do. So Phantom is one. And look at Phantom. I mean, look at already. It already looks like, I mean, but you don't know. There's not enough For me, I like patterns. I like to see boxes. I like ranges. So I would like to see something like this, maybe another spike up, another rejection, and then it just hovers here for a while, maybe even a couple days. And then all of a sudden we get sort of signs that it's breaking down. We get a retest. Okay, maybe it takes for it. Even here, I probably wouldn't short. I'd wait to see. Maybe it puts in a lower high here. Okay. And then it comes down, it dips down a little lower here. And then the market structure basically has changed and it's back below this level, back inside here. And then I'm taking a short. That's sort of a conservative entry for something like Phantom. But where it sits right now, I'm not going to long it. I'm not going to short it. I'm not going to long it because it's just made such a big move. And of course, the FOMO starts to kick in and you start feeling like, oh, I should be making money right now, especially if this is what you do for a living, which I think there's very few of us that do, but those of us that do, you know what I mean? You feel like you need to be making money and it's the worst time to be trading. So, excuse me. I'm just going to have a drink here. Yeah, trying to short here. I mean, you could get, it's kind of a, sorry, my voice today. It's a gamble for sure. It's a gamble because this is like a meme coin rally for Bitcoin. You don't know. I mean, even this hourly candle, we haven't seen a strong rejection here, but chances are, I think there's a good chance that if I had to guess what I think Bitcoin's going to do, I would say that it does come back inside under this 24K and does come back and maybe find support somewhere down 23,600, 23,500. And then it starts to push back up and maybe make another stab. And then it finally does break through back up and heads to 25K. That would be a healthy move. That would be what I would say. And maybe at that point, I'd consider taking a long position. And I'm just looking for areas where it could find some support. And of course, we also have that monthly open at 23,150 where it could come back down and revisit that. There's no telling, especially after this. Usually we get a 50% move back in the other direction, but that hasn't been the case in the last month or two with Bitcoin and Ethereum, because it's just been one of those markets where it's just pretty one-sided when it really makes up its mind which way it wants to go. So congrats to you if you caught the long on this. I didn't. I missed this move. I caught it on the way down. I caught Ethereum from 1660 all the way down and got out at the right time, but didn't catch the long side. So that's just the way it goes sometimes. So Phantom, Aptos, Optimism, Solana is another one that Solana actually did also push back into the range here. But I think that Solana is ultimately going to fall much harder and further than a lot of the other alts. So here's the deviation back inside the range. I wouldn't fade this, but maybe it revisits down here, 22, 25. Maybe that's wishful thinking, but maybe it does. And then there's your long trigger back up to the mid or back up to here, conservative target, and then to the mid, and then ultimately could come all the way back up to $26, $27. And that's because it's recaptured this range. And notice it did the same thing here, right? I mean, this was before we really had a range to work with, but it came all the way up to this level here. So there's no reason why it can't do that. But when Solana does come back up here, I definitely would be looking for some shorts, given that we see some weakness with Bitcoin and Ethereum. This would be probably a really great level to short Solana from if it gets back there. Or maybe it doesn't, it starts to break down from here. Maybe they all start to break down from here, and then that would be a short trigger. I don't think that's as likely a scenario to play out here for Solana, but Solana is another one that I have on the radar. DYDX was really looking promising from the short side. I was targeting down here. I caught a lot of this move down, but then it got back up again, and now It looks like it wants to challenge these levels up yet again. And this is we have a couple of supply zones stacked on top of each other here. So it's just entered one initial resistance here, and then we have another resistance level up here. Okay, so this is about $3 is where the resistance is, local resistance for DYDX. This isn't really as appealing to me from a long perspective, but it would be if it pulled back. Maybe. I mean, it maybe. But so from here, this level here, 273, and then it starts to come up from there. And notice I'm waiting for the move to settle down. I'm waiting for at least a slight pullback, retracement, whatever you want to call it. Dogecoin, I recently put this one back on the radar because there is actually something to work with here. We're above the mid of this larger range here, so very likely we'll try to push up higher from here. Again, if it comes back and retests the mid, there's your long trigger, or it comes back up here. So this would be sort of initial resistance, but could be a take profit level if you're in the long from down here, and then ultimately could come all the way back up to the top of this range again, and then we'd be looking for maybe for shorts. So we're just playing the levels, playing the ranges, but this actually is cleaner than it's been so for many months. For me, for Dogecoin, I just feel more clarity with this chart than before. That's why I added it to my list again. Matic is very curious to me. I don't have it on my main list right now, but I am sort of watching it. Just look at this. It just really rips when it wants, when the situation is good for the rest of the market. Matic is not one to fade. I'll tell you that. I faded this 3 times. I profited all 3 times, but I had to be very watchful, and it kept trying to rip back the other way. Every single time I'd fade it up here, so I faded it here, came all the way down, started to rip back up, took profits, faded it again here, came all the way back down, took profits, came all the way back up, faded it again a 3rd time, and now look, a 4th time, and now it broke straight back into this range here, and it's just a mess at this point. But Matic could really run. I mean, if Matic breaks through this level here, which is looking like it wants to, then we're going to be pushing into this zone. And I would say initial resistance would be at 141, 14185. So Matic's really strong. And if Matic even pulls back, if I were looking for longs here, I would be looking at Matic first and foremost. And I'd be looking to see, I just don't know if it's going to pull back. It's hard. It's really hard to read this chart. It just really is dramatic. But I think that Matic could very realistically push up into this zone up here, anywhere between 133 and 142, I would say, for Matic. And then we'll see what happens from there. But Matic has just been really strong. And this is one that I will personally accumulate. Maybe I'll miss the boat on this and it'll just keep running up forever. I don't know, but I'm willing to take that chance. I think that we're still going to head back lower at some point over the next month or two. So those are all the alts that I'm interested in. There's not really any others that are on my radar right now. You're probably not interested in Forex. Maybe some of you are. It's just really curious. Silver and gold is down, bonds are up. It's giving the triggers for a pullback, and it's not pulling back until the SPY really pulls back down and breaks down from this little range here. Then it could just continue to chop around here for days or weeks, and that's just going to give full permission for stocks to sort of continue and for crypto to continue, at least the tech stocks that I'm really focused on. So yeah, that's all I've got for you today. I want to keep these lives short and to the point, and I hope that you found this information helpful. And maybe just need to take a few days off from trading here. It actually would be a good thing for me because last week was really intensive with trading, and now I'm content, just sitting this out and watching and waiting and seeing what happens here. But yeah, you can see right now Bitcoin pushing back up 24,200. This is outrageous. It is what it is. It's just it's this is a good time to be neutral. This is a really good time. It's a better time than ever to be neutral, because what we've seen so far, this has been a face ripping rally, one after another, and I'm really curious. I'd be really happy to see Bitcoin come back to 25K, but I don't. I have my doubts that it's going to be able to really push through from there. We'll see. Maybe it just keeps going up, and that's great. I'll take a long if that needs to happen. And if I see Bitcoin clear 25K, then I might accumulate some as well if it really clears it, because then we know something's up. Then we know that someone's buying it and is not sharing it with us. Maybe it's world governments that are buying it. Maybe it's actually happening. It's actually the time that world governments are realizing that they need to buy it, to hedge against the potential weaponization of other currencies against theirs. That would make sense, wouldn't it? But again, it's all speculation, it's all anticipation, and I try not to engage in that too much. It's just that we have to be prepared for the different outcomes. So I'm not bullish, I'm not bearish, I'm neutral, and I'm happy to trade both ways. That's the approach. That's just my strategy as a price action trader. So I'm going to sign off here. And again, if you found some value, please like the video, give me a comment, something, give me some motivation. I need the motivation too, because otherwise I'm just going to focus on trading. I need the engagement, the interaction, because it's kind of like in real life. I'm not really talking to you all in a room. It would be nice if you were all in a room and we could just chat, like person to person, but I'm staring at a webcam and talking into a mic, and it's a new experience for me. But I am hearing some feedback that it is helping, that it is making a difference. But I don't really know what to share if I don't hear from you all. So I just go with what I'm thinking and where I'm at as far as what trades I'm looking at or looking to set up here. So thank you all, and have a beautiful day.